What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about: movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And right now, I'd like to give you guys my brief thoughts on WandaVision Episode 5. And yeah, this was a good episode again. You know, it just keeps on getting better. It just keeps on getting better. And we'll talk about the big ending here in a second. But first, I kind of want to talk about how I appreciated the fact that they went back to the sitcom storyline. Now they're set in the 80s. And they were willing to also go back to what's happening with S.W.O.R.D. and what's happening outside of the Hex anomaly. I appreciated that. I was afraid that they were just going to stick with one or the other from this point going forward. And I was glad that they are now bouncing back and forth between the two. We did get some backstory, and I appreciated getting the backstory as well. You know, seeing Wanda go in and get Vision's body. That was something that was necessary for us to see. And then the best moment so far in this entire series was when they tried to take her out with the drone, and then she comes out and faces them. And at that point, you really get the sense that Wanda is pulling the strings. She knows everything that's going on, and that she's kind of the bad guy here. I'm not convinced of that yet, but you definitely get the sense of that. That is the story that they're trying to tell you up to this point, is that Wanda is in control and Wanda is the bad guy. I love how Vision is kind of figuring everything out. And this episode saw more of that than we've had yet. And I think that going forward from here, we're going to see Vision as kind of the primary protagonist. He's going to be kind of the avatar for us. He's the one that's kind of figuring things out. And we're going to be figuring things out while he's figuring the things out. As he's learning new information, we'll be learning that new information as well. I definitely think that Vision is going to be the conduit for that for the audience. And I think that there is going to be some continued friction between Wanda and Vision moving forward. You know, we saw how angry they got, especially how angry he got at her at the end, saying that she can't control him, and she says, "Can't I?" I mean, that was just that was a moment that I was like, wow. She's over the deep end. But again, I think that I think that Kevin Feige's trying to make us think that she's more over the deep end than she is. And the storyline that kind of happened throughout this episode was definitely relevant, you know, with the dog and the dog dying, and then you know, the kids understanding their mom's power and saying, "Why can't you bring the dog back? You know, you're capable." And this episode also, it was really cool the way it kind of shed more light on Agnes. Because Wanda was willing to do her magic in front of Agnes. She wasn't too concerned about hiding it. And then it was Agnes, if you notice, I'm sure you did, it was Agnes that found the dog. And when they're talking about Wanda's powers out in the open, Wanda's just standing right there. In fact, when the kid said, "You can bring him back to life," Agnes was right there saying, "You can't?" And I don't think it was "you can" be as in, "I'm surprised you have powers." I think it was a "you can" as in, "Wow, I'm surprised you have those powers also." That was kind of the way I read it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just think that Agnes knows a lot more than we know that she knows. In fact, I think Agnes plays a much bigger role in this show than we think. You know, when they were putting together who's who, like this real person is playing this fake person, this real person is playing this fake person. If you noticed, they never said who Agnes is in real life, and who she's playing. She was never mentioned. She's not up on that clipboard. And Agnes isn't surprised when the kids grow real fast. She's not surprised by the weird stuff that goes on. She seems like she's scared, and maybe scared isn't the right word. It might seem like she's working with Wanda. But you know, I've definitely read the theories out there that Agnes could be Harkness. Was it Abigail Harkness? She's a witch from the comics. I'm not too familiar with the character, but I think that Kevin Feige is somebody who's definitely smart enough to dig through Marvel lore and find obscure characters. And I don't know how obscure Abigail Harkness is. Like I said, I'm just not very familiar with her myself. But he's definitely not beyond finding characters to use in big properties like this. let's talk about what happened at the end. Obviously, we had Evan Peters' version of Quicksilver show up, and he was recast. Petro was recast, as said Darcy, which, by the way, Darcy is a very annoying character to me. I found her a lot more tolerable in this episode, for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because we just had small doses at a time. But, yeah, they recast Petro. And I've had people literally get angry at me over the past couple days because I don't believe that's Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. I don't believe it. I think it's a red herring. I think that we're meant to think that he is. I think that us, as the audience, we are meant to think that Evan Peters is playing the Quicksilver from the X-Men movies. But I do not think he is playing him. I think it's a red herring. I think that if you remember, Wanda was surprised when he came to the door. She was not in control of that, and she's been in control of everything. I think that whoever Evan Peters is, Wanda and the audience is going to supposed to think that he's Quicksilver for a while, maybe even the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, but then we're going to find out that he's something a little different, something a little more sinister. I think he's going to end up being the antagonist. Whatever it is that's controlling Wanda, whatever it is that's creating this universe, controlling this universe, I think it's going to come down to being Evan Peters' Quicksilver, simply because I don't think they're ready to merge the X-Men universe yet, and when they do bring in the mutants, I don't think they're going to bring in the mutants with established cast. I really don't think so. Kevin Feige even said that they're going to recast. Now, this was a couple years ago when he said this, but he said it, that they're going to recast. And so I just don't think that they're going to bring in the established Fox X-Men, especially the ones that aren't that popular. Now, yeah, sure, Evan Peters' Quicksilver, he's one of the more popular characters in the newer X-Men movies, but let's face it, the newer X-Men movies were not nearly as popular as the early ones, you know? There were some good ones, like First Class was good, Days of Future Past was good. There's also some absolute garbage, and it's been kind of garbagey for a while with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. I mean, it hasn't been very good for a while, so I really think that they're going to want to recast and just start over from scratch. And that, bringing in the old mutants, you're also going to be bringing in all the baggage. And if you bring in the old mutants, what are you going to do about Wolverine? There's a lot of questions here to be asked that you don't have to ask if you just start the X-Men over. Just start them from scratch. And all the baggage that they would bring with them if you merge the universes, that includes baggage of previous storylines that I would like to see the MCU do. I'd love to see the MCU do the Phoenix storyline. I would love to see the MCU take on Apocalypse. There's some wonderful storylines that Fox had their crack at that now I'd like to see the MCU take their crack at. So, yeah, I don't think it's Evan Peters' version of Quicksilver. I think we're meant to think it is, but I think it's going to end up being somebody a lot different. And in fact, I think it's going to be somebody that's bad. I think it's a bad guy. So, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I thought this episode was very good. I thought that it continued to move the story forward, and I love how they kind of set up WandaVision as a whole. You had the first couple episodes that were being played as straight sitcoms, and then episode 3 kind of learned a little bit was going on. Episode 4, they dropped a whole bunch on you. Now episode 5, they're continuing to push things forward. It's not slowing down. It's got a lot of momentum behind it, and it still has a mystery, and that's one of the things that's really keeping it intriguing is the fact that there is a mystery that's playing out in front of us, and that we have all sorts of theories, and some of us are going to be right and some of us are going to be wrong. If you think that that's Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, though, I think you're going to be wrong. So, what did you think of WandaVision episode 5? It's been my favorite one so far. In fact, I have liked every single one more and more. So I liked episode 2 more than 1, episode 3 more than 2, episode 4 more than 3, and episode 5 more than 4. I just think it's getting better as it goes on. So what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on it. While you're down there, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out a lot of content and I want to make sure that you're up to date with everything that I'm doing. And as always, thank you so much for joining me right here at the Geeky Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.